at the start of the year, this one you just have to, someone will come and say, technologically challenged. We're starting off the year with something, a very simple message, and simple but so important and so powerful if you would simply apply to your life. Now, the question that I want to begin us with is this. I want to ask you a question, which is this on the PowerPoint. Yes. Have you ever tried to build something? Aaron builds it every day. Yesterday. It's his job. Okay? But for the rest of you, not just building buildings, we're talking about projects. Okay? Some of us, for the ladies, you all like arts and craft. So that's kind of building something. Have you tried building something? Making something, crafting something? Be careful. Okay? I have some grand plans, some grand schemes in my mind that I attempt to do. For example, Wayne's car broke already. He doesn't want it anymore. After making sure that he doesn't want it, I want to go and replace the front piece of wood, which requires me to buy plywood lah, cut the size lah, sand lah, then put it on. Okay, and if Wayne wants it back after that, it's too late. I'll probably give it to the church. But that's what I want to do, some of the things that I want to do. Okay? I have some projects that I've done and completed, but not like that one is in process. Some other things that I've done before, like IKEA furniture, like things sometimes around the school or the church that I want to put up or do or renovate, like the blinds in the office. We do that. That's a process to building something. Now, let's take an example for, you want to build a building. What are the processes involved in that? What do you have to have? Land. That is like the fundamental bottom line, is like step 0. Have the land to build a building, because you can't build castles in the sky. Okay? Very, very wise. Okay? Have a piece of land. What else? What do you all think? I mean, not just engineering standpoint, okay? We have an engineer here, he can tell you whether you're right or wrong. What else do you need? Material, money, wow, you guys are, okay? Plan. Plan as well, a blueprint. And then? Okay, people are human resources, people, effort, energy, okay? And all that and more is required. There needs to be people who has the land, the developer. You need then the architect to design and build it, on a piece of paper. Okay, the architect actually builds the building on a piece of paper or in his mind. Then after that, you have the engineers come in and make it make sense. Okay, so that you will build it in the air. Then you have the trees, for the most part, come in and execute it, build it, and then finish it, touch up, whatever. And then you have someone like you and me who comes and buy the building. Okay? And if it is a house that they are building, then the architects or the interior designers will design it in a way where it's a house. There is a bedroom, there has to be toilets. If it's a family house, then there's a family area, or is it a studio apartment for people who want to be bachelors, whatever, like January. Okay? If it's a family house, then you have a family area. But if you're a bachelor, all you need is a space and a toilet. Okay, toilet. So things like that, you need to take into consideration. And at the end of it, there's these people who market it to you. They tell you things like, I don't know, I was buying a house recently because some really corny, cheesy catchphrases like, I don't know, life in the garden or something like that. I don't know what they say nowadays. Okay, things like that. Okay, low density, what garden, rooftop garden, whatever. Okay, jacuzzis, things like that. And then that's the final product, and we buy it. But before that, and then we think that the process of buying a house is very tedious, right? But before all that, there's all this going on. Now today, I want to tell us to start, as we are at the start of the year. Last year just ended, this year just started. thing I want us to think about today is to start with the end in mind. We have a very good example. We just experienced the end. Actually, New Year or not, life goes on one hand. But if you want it to, it is an extra impetus, extra motivation for us to start something new, have a fresh start again. Thank God that there's a new year that signifies and symbolizes a new start for us. So there can be an end to certain things. If you have some bad habits, there can be an end. It can come to an end. And if you want to start certain good things, there can be a start. And we're at the end and at the start, kind of, we're at the transition to the new year. We're still going to write 2014, that proves, okay? We have to cut it off. It's 2015 now. So we are kind of transitioning into this new year, and while we're still in this transition mode, I want to get this home. Now there are some sermons that we preach that's really biblical and we really have to dig deep. But today is something very simple, but very powerful. Alright? It takes nothing away from it. These principles from the Bible, whether directly or how you say essence of the Bible is there. Okay? Then I juiced it, squeezed it, and kind of condensed it down to these few things for you. And there will be Bible verses, but if it sounds like something you hear from Oprah, that's fine, because she copied the church anyway. Okay? And if you didn't know, many of these kind of self-improvement, leadership kind of gurus out there in the world, they all started from a Christian circle in the first place. And some of them didn't even start from there, but they just took the roots rip off. And as Chen Xing, I didn't know, okay, that he found out that Zig Ziglar was a Christian author. You know that? Do you know Stephen Covey was also a Christian author? He's a Christian author. And John Maxwell also don't just write about leadership. They intentionally omit the Christian part, they don't emphasize that, but they all started as Christian authors. Okay? Zig Ziglar, according to him, is a marketing guru. Sales guru. For me, he's just a self-help author, Christian self-help author kind of thing. This is new to me as well as it's new to him. So a lot of these things come from biblical principles in the first place. So if you feel like today is like, oh, this pastor don't know whether to preach Bible or preach Oprah, let me tell you that Oprah started there. Anyway, here's three things that I want you all to consider. Here are three kind of thoughts that I come, as I prepare for the new year, that come across my mind. First thing is this: all things are created twice. Okay? Like the building that we talked about, the building that we just built in our heads. We built in our heads. Whatever building you see, this building that we're in, your house, your apartment, your office, it has been built twice. Once on paper in blueprint, one in somebody's mind, okay? And it's drawn out, it is built, and then maybe even created into miniature model. Okay, one in 60 scale with matchbox, toothpicks, and all that, and hot wheels. Okay? And the other version is the real version, where it's created in reality, it's realized. A realization. It is created twice. It says in Proverbs chapter 16 verse 1 that we may make plans, but God has the last word. As you make plans for this year, here's the tip. Word from the wise is that you make plans, but God has the last say. Okay? The wise man here will tell you that you make plans according to God's plan. If you have gone around making your plan and forgot to pray about it, scrap that plan, pray about it, then come back to the plan. Start again. Start with God in mind. Start with the end in mind, but start with God in mind as well. What does God want you to achieve this year? By the end, December 31st, it's wash night service again. And God wants you have time to give your testimony, and of course, we always say two things: what happened past year and what to expect in next year. Okay? Always the same. Okay? What are you going to say about this year? What do you want to say you have accomplished? What do you want to say that you have built? And the other side of it is also this. What is it that you want to say that you have given up or torn down? Two sides to it. It's built twice. I think, therefore I am. That is philosophy, isn't it? then you don't have that mental picture in your mind. You don't have it yet. Okay, and we have a geek in our midst who used to have his own bowling ball. Okay, Derek used to have his own 9-pound ball. Okay, and one of the things, supposedly, one time, okay, they were preparing to go bowling or something like that with friends, and I thought, while preparing, I go and just YouTube bowling. Okay, how to bowl. I think it must be some site like WikiHow or something like that. Something like that. Say how to bowl. One of the steps that was listed, okay, after you prepare, you look at the dots, where you stand, everything, you choose the ball, blah blah blah. And the next thing is, before you execute that bowl, you have to visualize. You must visualize the strike. The ball's going to go like that, and it's going to go like that, then it's going to pop, and then everything's going to be a strike. You must visualize it. Okay? And it's an important part of bowling, as weird as it seems. Okay? And I'm not just talking about this kind of like new agey power of the mind. You think then it happens, because our mind is so powerful. Hashtag Lucy. Okay? But it's not just that. Visualization does something to us. It helps us. So, before you execute anything, it's created once already in your head. Now, as the new year starts, I'm sure we have certain things, whether in writing or just in your head, on paper or just in your imagination. You have decided on doing some things this year. Okay? If you have not, you need to. Whether it's small things, minor things that need to be changed in your life, or some of us need to have major changes. And I think most of us, all of us here, I would say, I'll speak on your behalf, we all have changes that we need to make. Remaining the same year in, year out is not good enough. It shows no growth. No growth means that you're dying, whether inside or outside, whatever, okay? So, create things, build it in your mind first. Okay? In fact, when I thought about this, even God sort of functions in this way. There are projects where you just do you'll wing it. Okay? But sometimes you end up with, like if you want to make a cajon, the cajon ends up not as a cube, but as some kind of postmodern design that doesn't have straight corner, 90-degree corners or that, okay? Not enough material, things like that, okay? That's when you say it's postmodern, you don't understand. What feeling does it evoke? Alright? But we need to, God also functions like that. When He wants to create something worthwhile, He puts thought into it. And I was reading from Genesis chapter 1, the creation account where God says, let there be boom. Then it happens, let there be boom, let there be boom. But then when it comes to His ultimate creation, you and I, mankind, there was sort of a committee meeting first, I think in verse, you just look at Genesis chapter 1, verse something in the teens, close to 20. And God said to, let us build, let us make man in our own image. And God went, okay, things like that, we're going to make them like that. And then only He said, then only He created man. He thought through it first. There was some thought process applied to it. It was not like the rest of creation that God just spoke and it happened. Okay? Even for God functions like that. So that's a little bit of something that we need to think about. If you want to build something worthwhile this year, start by putting it down in your head or on paper. The best thing is, you put in your brain, you're going to forget. Write it down. Put it somewhere you can see it. Remind yourself every day so that you can visualize the end and work towards it. I don't suggest any kind of like anything complex. If you're into complex stuff like point 1, point 2, point 3, up to a point, I don't know, and then some point. But this year for me, it's very simple. I'm committed to intimacy. Intimacy with relationships with you all as our church members and with my friends, with God, with my family. This year, that's what I want to see happen in my life. Intimacy. And if you want depth, I want to say that sometimes I realize that in my relationships we can be so shallow and superficial that I cannot express myself to my friends or church members properly. It's just like grunt and groan. And when someone even feels bad about something or depressed, I make a joke of it. Because I don't know how to go there. Okay? But this year, I hope not to make jokes alone. Okay? If that is what is needed, fine. But more than that, I want that in our relationship. And that's me, alright? So you guys can do something like that. And it's a one-word thing, and one word is powerful. One word can change you. Intimacy or even depth, going deeper, things like that. Start it out. Write it down. Put it somewhere you can see. The next thing is this. Design or default. Press the zing. And I didn't put down this NLT, okay? And it says in Romans 7:14. So the trouble is not with the law, for it is spiritual and good. The trouble is with me, for I am too human, a slave to sin. I don't really understand myself, for what I want to do is right, but I don't do it. Instead, I do what I hate. Okay? This verse talks about something else. Talks about sin and how we are prone to sin because of our fallen nature. But an extended application of this verse that I want to put forth to you guys is this. Is that by default, we are kind of lazy. We tend to just cruise. If there's an opportunity to cruise, we prefer the easy path and we'll always take the easy path by default. But change sometimes has pain. Pain is sometimes involved. And sometimes the reason change comes about is because of pain. And sometimes we only change when the pain of remaining the same becomes more than the pain of changing. Let's not get to the point where we are forced to change, but let's continue to make minor changes instead of suddenly God needing to come into our lives with a sledgehammer. Okay? When God, the potter, comes in, and let's be moldable, pliable to the potter, and not wait for him to come with a sledgehammer. We are, beyond redemption already. Cannot save already. Let's start by always making changes, always drawing closer to Him. Okay, that's what I want to say. And of course, to quote, this is John 12:4. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. By default, we are all prone to certain ways, certain habits, certain lifestyles that is kind of like that has been in us for the longest time. And if you want some of these things that are not so good in your life, some of these bad habits, you want to get rid of them, you have to decide not to follow the default mode, but to set your own path and say that this year I want this to happen, therefore I cannot do this anymore. I want this to happen, therefore I must do this, although it's so hard and so painful, although it requires my sacrifice. A lot of us have great intentions. None of us here have bad intentions. We know one another. Our intentions are all noble. We have noble desires and intentions. We want to do good. We want to become good. We want to be godly. But somehow, we remain the same year in, year out because we never took any action. We couldn't find the discipline, the strength to decide otherwise. To take that harder road, not the smoothest, easiest road. If you leave it be, you will be like this. The next year, you'll be, I'm sure you have things that you want to do last year that you didn't do. Resolutions that you wanted to complete, but did not complete, and now it's a new year, and those have failed. I'm sure there are. All of us experience that. But if you don't, congratulations, okay? Maybe this year was a good year for you. But there are times where we set our hearts on something, but we never execute it. I want to do this. I want to complete my degree. Never complete. I want to complete my this. I want to go and take guitar class. Never get to it. All noble intentions. I want to serve God more. I want to do my quiet time consistently. I want to pray to God more. Nobody will say no to that. I know you, I know me. We all have noble desires, good desires. Those desires are good and I want to enforce it. But without action, there will be no results, there will be no outcome. If you want a change in your life, you want to see results, you must take actions on the good desires. Of course, if you have bad desires, you got to remove it out. Okay? And of course, this, we can count on Tenzing to give you the most earthy wisdom. And I think I forgot when he said it, but it stuck with me, is that he said the most difficult part of going to gym is putting on your shoes. Once you tie your shoelace, you're in the gym already the next thing. Okay? After that, it's pretty easy. Unless your gym is next to a McDonald's. Or not a gym. Okay? Then you reach the gym, it's like, oh, McDonald's. Okay? But sometimes, the first step is the hardest thing. Once you started, the first step is easy. Like this year, I think I would consider my first step done. I want to complete my degree. I'm talking about myself. And this is the irony of being a pastor and a teacher and trying to teach someone else something. And I'm always, let me just say, I'm always in awe that God will use someone like me to say things like this to you all, because I'm nobody. All of you, I dare say, do better, are more successful in a sense. Most of you have bigger bank accounts, you have certain positions in your job and all that. And sometimes it's intimidating for me. Sometimes, for me, I don't think it's so much of a trouble. But sometimes I think about that. And the thought is that, who am I to tell this guy how to live his life or how to behave in the world? Because he makes like 4 times your salary, Okay? But the thing here is this. As I'm sharing this with you, I'm not exempted by it. There are some things where I speak from a standpoint of victory, and I've been through it. There are some things where I speak from the point where I'm right there with you. And this is one thing that I'm there with you in the sense that most of you have done your degree. I have not done my degree. I have a diploma, and I want to do my degree. I'm like 2 or 3 subjects away from my degree. Okay? And next year, I always pay attention to Bible school when they send me the night class brochures, and I want to take the night this year. This year. And so I received the brochure for this year. Thank you, Wayne. Yes, Wayne is paying attention. Breakthrough revival. And this year I spotted some courses that I know I want to take. I have not paid money, but I know I want to take. I am decided. I've taken the first step. It is in my mind already. I want to take it, and in fact, I want to take it with my wife. And I want to grow together. And it's a course. In case you're curious, it's a course on teaching. And my wife and I, we are kind of like in the business of teaching and education. So we want to do this together. We want to grow together. And this is me taking the first step, telling my wife, block off these dates, get somebody to babysit the children so that we can do it together, things like that. So we are making plans. We already told my parents, and my parents said they'll be back. Not that they purposely fly back for that. They happen to be in town and they're going to babysit our children while we enjoy our holiday for our kids to go and study. Okay? It's a simple course, you should consider it. It's a crash course, 2 weeks in a row, 7 to 10, Monday to Friday. Cost is about 130 or 140 ringgit. Cheap, so cheap, full credit. You do this for 10 years, 12 years in a row, consecutively, 9 classes to get a diploma. 10 years. Okay, part time. When you're happy, you take. You're not happy or you're busy or something, you don't take. Lots of people do that. So that is something that I am working towards. Okay? I mean, most people are not aiming for the diploma, they're just aiming to grow. And as they, after like 5 years, they realize, hey, I'm halfway there already. And it's not just for people who want to be pastors. Okay? Lots of business people, whatever, they finish their work, come from the office and take the class. So very easy, very small bite sizes. And that's some of the things I want to do. That's an example of something I want to do. Now, are there things like that you want to do, that you have decided to do? Because if you do not plan for it, you're not going to do it. You're going to stay at home, you're going to play a PS4, or you're going to just surf Facebook, and you're going to scroll, and then you realize that you've been here already. You've seen this status already. Why is it still here? Why are you still here? That's default mode. Okay? It takes a desire, and motivation, and strength to get you to close Facebook and open your Bible app. Okay? So that's that. Design or default. Design, you have to have the desire and take action on them to the outcome. Next thing, last thing, very simple, is day by day. Matthew 34, 6:34 says, I like the Living Bible translation for this. It says, don't be anxious about tomorrow. God will take care of your tomorrow too. Live one day at a time. Now sometimes our vision for our year is kind of big. I want to lose, just for example, I want to lose 15 kilos by the end of the year. Or put on, some of us. It's like, how are you going to do this within 1 year? You know, within 1 day. It's not something that you want to procrastinate, but it's not something that you can achieve in 1 day. And by the way, if you are talking about, I want to do this is my resolution for the new year, and you get it done within the first day, within the first day, you need a bigger resolution, you need a bigger vision. Ask God for a bigger vision. Okay? Things like that, you want to achieve in a year, needs time, needs effort, and it's not just one-off. It needs to be every day. It's not just one big bite and then settle already. It's something that you cannot just take one big bite out of. It needs to be a daily, day out thing. Okay? So instead of just, I'm here. Okay, sometimes I want to improve my guitar. That's kind of like always one thing I want to improve. Whatever we do, one of the examples is playing guitar. Sometimes I watch, I know real musicians who really play really well. They just picked it up 3 months ago and they play better than me, and it's very discouraging. Okay? Some people see good musicians and they feel like, I'm so motivated. I want to play just like you. Then they go and practice. For me, after practicing for so many years, decades, let's see someone who do it what I do in decades within months. I feel discouraged. Okay? So know yourself, and know if you're teaching also, you gotta know how to motivate people. And sometimes you don't need this sifu to come and show, if you practice for 100 years, you can play like this. Maybe discouraged and just give up. Okay, never mind, forget it. I sell my guitar. Okay? Sometimes you just need to know the next step. And that's what it says here in Matthew 6:34. Tomorrow has tomorrow's problems. Today, you do this. And it also means that you don't procrastinate what you need to do today to tomorrow. Okay? It means day by day. Today has today's worries. What do you need to do today? What do you need to achieve this week? It's kind of like a breakdown. And the last point in the slide is one here. The last point says create short-term goals. Have checkpoints. Have quantifiable short-term goals. For example, if we are on the example of guitar, okay, by middle of the year or by April, I want to master the pentatonic scale or something like that. I want to be able to play this song or this thing. Then at that time, you work towards that. It's a smaller bite. Then the next 3 months, you work on the next thing, and the next 3 months, you work on the next thing. And then at the end of the year, you at least have 4 riffs that you have. Alright? 4 guitar solos that you can do to impress girls. All you need is 4. And that's just an example. Okay? That's just an example. So, create short-term goals. Break it up. Whatever you're thinking of at the end of the year, yes, I'm telling you to start this year with the end in mind. Now break it down. Go reverse. Okay? And the vision for our lives is not just 1 year, by the way. God has a huge vision for us. And we are supposed to live with the end in mind. Last time when I gave you guys that rope thingy with talking about representing your life and how short life is compared to eternity, and reminded you that to live your life with the end in mind. I'm telling you to do the same thing for this year. And in fact, just this year is already a breakdown of what your destiny is. After 70 years, or 10 years, 20 years, where would you be? Okay, live with the end in mind. And at the same time, the other side of the coin is this. Proverbs 27 verse 1 says, don't brag about tomorrow since you don't know what the day will bring. Okay, let's not talk about all the things that we desire to do and that we have not done in the future. Oh, I want to be this, I want to be that. But today is haven't over. Today is haven't get started. Okay? Yes, have the end in mind. Yes, work day by day. These two things are important. Okay? And it says, I don't even know who this quote attributed to so many people already. So who cares? You know what? Google gave me this quote. It says, plant a thought, reap a word. Plant a word, reap an action. Plant an action, reap a habit. Plant a habit, reap a character. Plant a character, reap a destiny. Okay? And it all starts from a thought, a desire. Okay? I'm not telling you that you are God. You think and therefore you are. Not that way. A thought is powerful because it gets you started. It is step 0. That is the land that you have for your building. That is your thought. And as you take action on your thought, your desires, a word, like I said, intimacy, or depth, and then it reaps an action. I stop making jokes, or I start connecting in another deeper level. Actions, and it becomes a habit. I do it enough times, I start a new habit and a new lifestyle. And it becomes a character, it becomes a part of me. Okay? Then I level up a new skill. I don't know what it is. Crying shoulder. Plus 25 shoulder bread. Okay? And it becomes you, it's part of you. And of course, as you go down this road, it becomes your destiny. Okay? And God has a great plan for all of us. Okay? It says so in Jeremiah. Okay? God has a plan to prosper, to bless. Okay? Now, that's the plan. That is the end in mind. How are you going to get there? What do you have to start? I think the simplest things, and I've harped over it, and I harp over it over and over again, and it's kind of like my own little pet peeve, and I think that it's okay to harp on this over and over again like a broken record, because the simplest things, thought, a word leads to destiny. Just like spending time in God's word leads to knowing God better. Spending time in prayer, spending time with your guitar, not learning guitar, but worshiping God takes you into a better worshiper. So here are some things I suggest should be stable in all of our design for this year, all of our plans, which is read your Bible, pray every day. Number 1, if you're not doing that, if you're doing that, good. Maybe you want to go deeper, you want to spend more time with the Lord, that's great. Okay? But if you have not, this is the number 1 building block, this is the cornerstone. Don't talk about anything else until you get this right. Then just now I quoted Matthew 6:34, but Matthew 6:33 says, seek God first and His kingdom. Then worry about other things. If you have not seen God first, you're worrying about these things day in, day out, forget about it because you got it the other way around. The main thing must be the main thing first. Okay? Start with that. Read your Bible, spend time with God, start with the basics, the foundations that we talked about, that we spend so much time talking about in church. Church attendance, worshipping God together, things like this. Reading your Bible, having a community of believers with you, brothers and sisters together. These are the foundational things. And once you lay this down, you can start on the next thing. Okay, I want to further my career, I want to do better, I want to become a better husband, I want to become a better parent, I want to become a better worker. All that starts from seeking God first. So if you do not have this habit yet, and lifestyle of spending time with God, number 1 is you must do that. This one, no argument. Other things, you're open to to discussion. This one we have. The next step, open to discussion. You want to be better husband this year, you want to be better worker, you want to get promotion, all that, up to you and God, between you and God. But this one doesn't change. Step one doesn't change. Alright? So with that, I want to remind you, okay, start it in your head. All things are created twice. Begin to create it in your mind first, then execute. It is by design or default. If you do not choose it, it will be automatically chosen for you. Whether your boss gives you or tell you to go down this road or do this job or take up this project, your boss is going to tell you, your parents are going to tell you, your friends are going to tell you, and sometimes that's not what God wants for you. Okay? You need to know what God wants for you. So seek God for His plan, and of course, break it down. Have the end in mind, but start today. Today, what do I have to do? Tomorrow, what I have to do? This week, what do I have to do? This month, what I have to do? Okay? And for that, I hope that all of us here will experience a great year of success. Let me just end this time with a word of prayer. Lord, I want to thank you for this simple reminder on the new year. And even right now, as we commit our year to you, God, we want to put you first. Even as this journey, this long journey is before us, and we're standing on the starting line, oh God, we pray that we will start right and we will end well as well. Right now, at the start of this year, and at the close of last year, and at the start of this year, this transition time, oh God, we want to put you first. Even as you have loved us by dying on the cross, by sacrificing your own life for us, right now, God, we want to remember you. Let's prepare ourselves for Holy Communion this morning. And at this time, we want to remember what God has done for us. New Year is great. It's a chance to start anew and to thank God for all He has done in the last year. So right now, let's begin to do that. Let's begin to ask the Holy Spirit to come and remind us of all the things that He has done in our life.